3 clues: a boot print, a torn glove, a stopped watch. They tell you nothing until they tell you everything. This is the moment before the detective thinks, the moment of raw observation, the moment before abduction begins. And this is where we have been heading since episode 1. In episode 1, we discovered that Sherlock Holmes never actually uses deduction. In episode 2, we mastered deduction with Aristotle, the man who invented it, the reasoning of certainty. In episode 3, we explored induction with David Hume and the Black Swan, the reasoning of patterns, powerful but fragile. Today, we arrive at the third pillar, the most powerful, the most misunderstood, the one that actually moves knowledge forward: abduction. Welcome back to Deductive Minds. Today we go deep into abductive reasoning, the third pillar, the reasoning of the detective, the doctor, the scientist at the moment of discovery, and, as you will see, the most natural reasoning tool the human mind possesses. The man who named abduction was not a detective. He was a philosopher. Charles Sanders Peirce, American, 1878. One of the most original thinkers in history, and one of the least famous. Peirce spent his life building what he called a logic of discovery. Not the logic of proving things already known, but the logic of finding things not yet known. He called it abduction, and he argued it was the only form of reasoning capable of generating genuinely new ideas. Abduction begins with a surprise, something unexpected, something that does not fit the world as you understood it, an anomaly. And from that anomaly, abduction asks one question: what is the best explanation for what I am seeing? Not the only explanation, not a guaranteed explanation. The best one, given all available evidence. This is Peirce's great insight. Reasoning does not always start with rules. Sometimes it starts with a puzzle. Here is the key difference. Deduction moves downward, from rules to inevitable conclusions. Induction moves upward, from many observations to general patterns. Abduction moves sideways, from a single surprising fact to the most plausible explanation. It does not require many observations. It does not require universal rules. It requires one thing above all: precise observation. The ability to notice what does not fit. Peirce loved simple examples. He described a man arriving at a port who finds a handful of white beans on the dock. Nearby, an open bag of white beans. The man thinks, these beans probably came from that bag. No one told him. No rule guaranteed it. He observed an anomaly, beans where beans should not be, and found the most plausible explanation. That, says Peirce, is abduction in its purest form. Small, quiet, and constantly happening in every working human mind. The doctor does not run every test possible before forming an opinion. She observes. She notices the anomaly, the symptom that does not fit the baseline. And she abduces. She generates the most plausible diagnosis from the available evidence. Then she tests it. If the evidence confirms, she proceeds. If it contradicts, she abduces again with new information. This is how medicine has always worked at its sharpest. Hippocrates did it. Ignaz Semmelweis did it, noticing that doctors who washed their hands had dramatically fewer patient deaths. One anomaly, one abductive leap, millions of lives saved. Isaac Newton watched an apple fall. He did not deduce gravity from a universal rule. He did not observe a million falling objects and induce a pattern. He noticed an anomaly, a specific quality of the fall, the way objects always accelerate in the same way toward the earth. And he abduced. What if the same force that pulls the apple also holds the moon in orbit? One observation, one lateral leap, universal gravitation. This is what Peirce meant when he said, abduction is the engine of discovery. Deduction proves, induction confirms, abduction discovers. First, practical exercise. Abduction in conversation. Next time you are with someone who seems off, quieter than usual, distracted, tense, do not immediately ask, "What's wrong?" Instead, observe first. What is the anomaly? What specifically does not fit their usual pattern? Then generate explanations. Stress at work, a conflict at home, poor sleep, a health concern. Which explanation best fits all the evidence? This is abductive thinking applied to empathy, and it makes you dramatically better at understanding the people around you before they say a word. Second practical exercise, abduction as a diagnostic tool. When something goes wrong, a project, a relationship, a system, resist the urge to jump to the first explanation. Instead, map the anomalies. What specifically is wrong? What does not fit the expected pattern? Then generate at least 3 possible explanations. Do not evaluate them yet. Generate first. Now, which explanation accounts for the most anomalies with the fewest assumptions? That is your best abductive hypothesis. Test it. If it holds, act. If it fails, abduct again. This is how the sharpest problem solvers in medicine, engineering, and business actually think. Third practical exercise, abduction for daily clarity. Every time you find yourself confused about a situation, a person's behavior, an unexpected outcome, ask yourself, what are the 3 most plausible explanations for what I am seeing? Write them down. Then ask, which one requires the fewest unverified assumptions? That is the principle of parsimony, or as it is sometimes called, Occam's razor. The simplest sufficient explanation is usually the right one. Not always, but usually. And starting there and being willing to revise is what separates abductive thinking from guesswork. We now have the full picture. 3 pillars, 3 philosophers, 3 tools. Aristotle gave us deduction, the reasoning of certainty. Use it to test what you already know. Hume and Popper showed us induction, the reasoning of patterns. Use it to build knowledge from experience, but hold it lightly. Peirce gave us abduction, the reasoning of discovery. Use it when you face the unknown, when the anomaly appears, when the world surprises you. A sharp mind does not choose between these tools. It knows which one to reach for and when. We have laid the foundation, the 3 pillars of reasoning, understood, compared, and applied. But the journey of deductive minds is just beginning. In the episodes ahead, the neuroscience of intuition. What happens in the brain when a great thinker has a flash of insight? The psychology of cognitive bias, the invisible forces that distort our reasoning without our knowledge, and the applied science of observation, how to train the skill that Holmes had. The foundation is set. Now we build. Thank you for completing this 4-episode journey through the pillars of reasoning. This is only the beginning of what Deductive Minds is building. If these episodes have sharpened the way you think, even slightly, then this channel is doing its job. Subscribe so you never miss what comes next. Leave a like It helps this reach more curious minds, and it means more than you know. And hit the bell, because what comes next goes even deeper. Until then, reason sharply. Observe precisely. Think deeply. The game is very much afoot. Deductive minds. Reason sharply. Observe precisely. Think deeply.